Good afternoon and welcome to the weekly livestock market update. I'm Brownfield anchor reporter Megan Grevner with us as always to talk all things markets. University of Missouri, Scott Brown. Good afternoon, Scott.
Good afternoon, Megan.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody. This is the craziest market week of the year.
You certainly have a lot of reports to talk about today.
Yes, it's like, let's see how many USDA reports they can throw in before a holiday, and it's all of them. So we're going to talk cold storage. We're going to talk livestock slaughter. We'll talk cattle on feed and finish up with a quarterly hogs and pigs report. But to kick things off, let's recap what happened in the very quiet and very slow markets this week.
Yeah, for sure, Megan. Not a lot of activity going on in markets. A combination of the holiday season and extremely cold weather, I think, has limited some activity this week. But slaughter-ready cattle this week were up 35 cents. You know, we really didn't test those feeder cattle markets. The combination of cold weather and holidays pretty much had all of them closed this week. On the feature side, the February live cattle futures contract was up $2, while the January feeder contract was down 10 cents. We got strength in the choice box beef this week, up $10.27. Strength across the board in all those components in that choice box beef. On the hog side, barrows and gilts this week were down $2.30, but the February lean hog futures contract closed up $2 this week. The pork cutout value was lower, down about $1.23. That was really led by what was lower hams and picnics this week.
And you have to say, are we at that point where we're really kind of, we have backed off so much on the box beef specifically that it's not necessarily a bad thing that we're seeing this go up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at where we are, we're only up $4 relative to where we were a year ago. So a little bit of catch up in that choice box beef price, which I will keep saying, we want those box beef prices higher. Hopefully continues to give us higher cattle prices.
We're going to talk weekly slaughter numbers. Also a slow week in general, especially today and yesterday, as so many people are battling Winter Storm Elliott. I know my dad is down here and has been like pacing a little bit because he's not home working cattle in this type of weather. So he is not alone. I have seen a whole lot of farmers and ranchers busting ice up and making sure cattle have feed. So our thoughts are with them also as well. But let's talk slaughter numbers because really not a great week.
Yeah, I will say this is one of the weeks that I'm glad not to be on the farm. I sure hope everybody stays safe out there. But small runs this week. For the week ending December 24th, USDA tells us a run of 562,000 head of cattle this week. That's down 63,000 head from last week, but actually up 75,000 head relative to a year ago. It's really on the hog side, pretty modest run, 1.769 million head of hogs this week. That's 823,000 less than we slaughtered a week ago, and 156,000 head less than what we slaughtered a year ago.
Let's talk about those year-to-date numbers. Obviously, the holiday coming in too is not going to keep us too far off of where we were a year ago anyway.
Yeah, that's right. We're almost going to put these year-to-dates to bed. Cattle slaughter 1.5% higher year-to-date, and hog slaughter down 2.9%.
We just have one more week of them, and then it'll be a whole different story in 2023 when we start checking in and doing those comparisons.
That's right. It's amazing how quick this year is gone.
Absolutely. Cold storage. So let's start there as we go through this flurry of USDA reports. I think you probably know where my eyes went yesterday in that report.
For sure, Megan. It was that 54.4 million pounds of bacon that you were excited about, hopeful for some lower bacon prices for you down the road. But if we look at the overall report, we'll start on the beef side. So beef in freezers at the end of November, 521.9 million pounds. That was 7.6% higher than where we were a year ago. So more beef stocks, I will say, it's only up about a little more than 5% relative to the 5-year average. On the pork side, we had 454.2 million pounds of pork in freezers at the end of November. That's 12.9% higher than last year, but that's actually 5.6% lower than the previous 5-year average. Now, bellies were up really hard. Again, 54.4 million pounds. A year ago, we were at 25.2. I don't want to get overly concerned about those levels of stocks. In 2019, we had 54.4 million pounds of bellies. So the 2021 was as much too tight as that we have too much bellies in freezers right now.
Are we kind of more in that where we should be range because we were so overdrawn prior?
Yes, I think you're right. And I'll just say from this point forward now, if we continue to grow those inventories, we got probably more to worry about than what we've been doing in terms of growing inventories for the last few months here.
Livestock slaughter is up next. This will be a great segue into cattle on feed also as we talk about those numbers. We talk a lot about beef cow slaughter numbers, and it looked like we maybe took a step back or took a little bit of a pause here in November.
If you call a slower increase a pause, then yes, I would agree with you. Up about 5. Sorry, I'm trying to be funny today, but 5.1% more beef cow slaughter in November relative to a year ago, which is a slowdown from where we've been seeing double-digit increases in beef cow slaughter. When you look at the overall numbers here for a minute, 2.424 billion pounds of beef produced in November. That was 1.9% above where we were a year ago. And when you look at the year-to-date slaughter numbers, or sorry, production numbers were also up 1.9%. On the hog side, pork production 2.351 billion pounds November of 2022. That's down 2.4% relative to last November. When you look at the year to date there, we're down 2% in overall pork production January through November.
And while 5% is not zero, it is a definite improvement from some of the numbers where we've been at, because some of those areas have been so huge in terms of beef cow slaughter numbers.
Yeah, correct. And you know, I'll say, Megan, we were already November a year ago at some pretty high levels as well. So we couldn't continue that double digit forever. But again, no signs that we're doing anything about growing the herd, probably continued contraction. And for you and me, that's probably a lot of discussion about just where is that beef cow herd come January 1 of 2023.
And I bet we have that conversation not in person, but or will it come out before we see each other in Missouri or no? No,
it will not. We won't see that till the very end of January. So
couldn't remember when those numbers came in. I do have a question for you though. We talk about beef cow slaughter and we talk about livestock slaughter in general. When we do start holding back for some expansion or some potential growth, does that potentially take away also then from what's available in terms of beef production and what's coming in and availability on the consumer side of things?
Yeah, so for sure, you know, when you look at heifer slaughter here as well, so November heifer slaughter was really strong, up 7.3% relative to November a year ago. When you look at the year to date on heifer slaughter, it's been up 5.3. Well, and all of a sudden, when we start holding those heifers back, trying to grow the herd as well, we'll likely turn that negative. And that will dip into production, current production, making that hole in production deeper than otherwise would be the case. I'm not sure we grow too quickly, but once we decide there's enough profitability to expand, we will talk about, again, that taking current production away from consumers.
All right, let's talk cattle on feed numbers. Where are we on December, or where were we on December 1?
Yeah. So I think when you look at on feed December 1, the report came in at 97.4% of a year ago. That was pretty close to pre-report estimates. So lower on feed numbers. I'll say all these numbers continue to tell us that we're going to produce less beef in 2023. When you look at placements for November, we placed at 97.9% of a year ago. That's at the upper end of the pre-report estimate. So maybe a little bit of surprise to the market to the high end. But again, we're talking about fewer placements, not more placements. It's just that we got a little higher than pre-report expectations. When you look at those placements by weight category, it's really those calves weighing 700 pounds or less that had the majority of the decline in terms of overall placements. And we were pretty steady, most of the weight categories, 700 pounds and above.
Wrapping up today, quarterly hogs and pigs report. As we take a look at those numbers, a smaller hog herd, and I'll let you fill in the rest.
Yeah, that's right. All hogs and pigs, December 1 came in at 98.2% of a year ago. When you start looking at those components for a minute, breeding inventory came in at 100.5% of a year ago. So up a little more than 25,000 head of breeding inventory. We were actually up just slightly relative to September 1 on sow inventory. So it's really the kept for marketing that was 98% of a year ago. So at the low end of pre-report estimates, when you look at those marketing numbers. So that's probably positive for us in the very near term in terms of market ready hogs coming over the next couple of months. Intentions, farrowing intentions were, so D's through February, 101 of a year ago, while March through May, 100.5. Both of those at the upper end of pre-report estimates. So although not a lot of growth in the breeding inventory, we're suggesting a little bit more larger increase in farrowings might be something that we watch as we look forward. I'll say I don't think this report really surprises us, and to me kind of confirms what I've been saying of it's a lot of sideways when you look at the supply side in 2023. And I don't mean sideways in that we won't grow production a little bit, but not a big change in 2023 relative to 2022.
How does the demand picture kind of play in here, thinking about potential growth, challenges with Prop 12 that we're still kind of waiting on? We've seen the China relax its COVID restrictions and cases are reportedly wild. Does that impact demand overall and what happens, or whether it hinders or spurs some growth with producers?
Yeah, so if demand were to slacken either internationally or here in the U.S., it doesn't take a very large increase in domestic production to get us with lower pork prices. I guess I kind of sit here and I go, I think we're in fairly reasonable balance. It's only if you describe one of the downsides here. If China decides they want a lot less pork from us in 2023, that will be a problem. If we talk about a severe economic downturn and it hurts pork demand, that's a problem for this industry. But the growth we're talking about in production in the year ahead, to me, is not at the large end of the scale by any means, and with just some continued demand growth, we'll be fine.
Buy your bacon and your hams.
So hopefully you'll get some cheaper bacon as you look ahead. Maybe that's it. Of all these reports today, Megan, that is your Christmas present, was the cold storage report that gave you more bacon, more bellies.
If you saw my grocery bill with the two growing boys who have grown another inch in the last 3 months, you would understand why I'm always on the hunt for bargain bacon. I mean, they eat other things, but they really love their bacon, and I can't deny them that.
Exactly. It's all good.
I'm a pork farmer's daughter. I grew up with a saying that was like, everything is better with bacon. So it's just the way it should be. All right. Merry Christmas. We will talk to you for one last show of the year right before New Year's Eve. We'll wrap up 2022 talking about demand.
With the Restaurant Performance Index next week. That's right.
I have a feeling we're going to talk a little risk management in there too. If you have questions, you can submit those. This is your opportunity again to pick Scott's brains to to be able to ask questions and see how this works and see what works and his thoughts on managing risk as we move ahead in 2023, because that's going to be kind of the theme for producers, I think, in the coming year.
Merry Christmas, Megan.
Merry Christmas. So our weekly livestock market update delivered to your email box every Saturday morning at Brownfield Ag News. You can also check out the Market Minute with John Perkins, where he runs down what happens every day in the commodity markets on Brownfield TV. Have a great weekend.